September 14, 2018, Seattle, Washington. The last normal conversation Maya Chen had with her brother was about pizza toppings. "I'm telling you, pineapple belongs on pizza," Daniel had texted that Thursday morning, adding 3 laughing emojis. "Fight me." Maya had rolled her eyes at her desk at the marketing firm downtown, thumbs flying across her phone screen. "You're a monster. Mom would disown you if she knew. Mom puts ketchup on steak. Her culinary opinions are invalid." That exchange, so ordinary and forgettable, would later be dissected by investigators, analyzed by online detectives, and replayed in Maya's mind thousands of times. The casual banter of siblings who assumed they had infinite time for stupid arguments about pizza. Daniel Chen was 27 years old, a graphic designer for a tech startup in Seattle's Capitol Hill neighborhood. He lived in a studio apartment with exposed brick walls covered in vintage concert posters, spent his weekends rock climbing at local gyms, and had recently ended a 3-year relationship that left him, in his own words, ready to reset. The Arizona trip was supposed to be that reset, a solo adventure to clear his head, take photographs for his Instagram portfolio, and prove to himself that he was fine being alone. "It's just 4 days," he'd told Maya over Korean BBQ the week before his departure. "Sedona, maybe the superstitions if I have time. I need to remember who I am without someone else defining it." Maya had watched her younger brother pick at his bulgogi, noting the shadows under his eyes that hadn't been there 6 months ago. The breakup with Emily had been brutal. She'd moved out while Daniel was at work, leaving only a note and half the furniture. Their mother worried constantly. Their father sent awkward text messages asking if Daniel was doing okay, buddy. "Just be careful," Maya had said, reaching across the table to squeeze his hand. "And send me pictures. Real ones, not just your Instagram-filtered nonsense." Daniel had grinned, the first genuine smile she'd seen in weeks. "Deal. I'll send you something that'll make you jealous of my artistic genius." On September 14th, Daniel's Southwest flight touched down at Phoenix Sky Harbor International Airport at 2:47 p.m. Security footage showed him collecting his single duffel bag from baggage claim, his Canon camera hanging around his neck, wearing the faded University of Washington hoodie he'd owned since freshman year. He looked relaxed, even excited, as he headed toward the rental car counters. The Enterprise agent who processed his paperwork later told police that Daniel seemed normal, friendly, maybe a little tired from the flight. He'd upgraded to an SUV, a silver Nissan Pathfinder, and asked for recommendations on scenic routes. The agent had suggested the Apache Trail and mentioned that cell service could be spotty in remote areas. "He said that was fine," she recalled in her statement. "He said he was actually looking forward to unplugging for a bit." Daniel drove north from Phoenix as the afternoon heat began its slow retreat. His credit card record showed a stop at a Safeway in Scottsdale at 4:15 p.m. Purchases included trail mix, 3 gallons of water, sunscreen, protein bars, and a disposable phone charger. The cashier didn't remember him. Why would she? He was just another tourist buying supplies for a desert adventure. His GPS history, later extracted from the rental car's navigation system, showed he'd programmed in the Lost Dutchman State Park as his first destination. But somewhere along State Route 88, he'd deviated from the planned route, taking a series of unmarked dirt roads that led deeper into the superstition wilderness. At 6:43 p.m., Maya's phone buzzed with an incoming text. She was in the middle of a presentation at work, her phone face down on the conference table. When she checked it during a break 20 minutes later, she saw the message Daniel had sent. A photograph of the most spectacular sunset she'd ever seen. All violent oranges and deep purples bleeding across a desert sky, with the jagged silhouette of a mountain range in the foreground. Below the photo, "Signal's bad, talk tomorrow." Maya had smiled, texted back, "Gorgeous, be safe, gang," and thought nothing more of it. She would never receive another message from her brother. September 16th, 2018, Superstition Wilderness, Arizona. When Daniel failed to check out of his Airbnb in Tempe on Sunday morning, the host assumed he'd simply extended his stay without notice. When he didn't show up for his return flight that evening, the airline marked him as a no-show and resold his seat. It wasn't until Monday morning, when Daniel missed a client meeting and his boss couldn't reach him, that anyone began to worry. Maya called her brother's phone 37 times that day. Each call went straight to voicemail, his cheerful recorded greeting becoming more agonizing with each repetition. "Hey, it's Daniel. Leave a message and I'll get back to you. Unless you're a telemarketer, then please reevaluate your life choices." She called the Airbnb host, who confirmed Daniel had never returned. She called local hospitals, her fingers shaking as she scrolled through Google results. She called the Phoenix Police Department, who told her that adults had the right to disappear and suggested waiting 48 hours. "He wouldn't just vanish," Maya insisted to the bored-sounding dispatcher. "He has responsibilities. He has a life here." "Ma'am, people come to Arizona to find themselves all the time," the dispatcher replied. "Most of them turn up fine." But Maya knew. She knew with the absolute certainty that only comes from sharing a childhood, from knowing someone's patterns and quirks and fears. Daniel wouldn't disappear without a word. He wouldn't miss work. He wouldn't ignore their mother's inevitable worried phone calls. Something was wrong. By Tuesday morning, Maya was on a flight to Phoenix, her laptop bag stuffed with printed maps, charging cables, and a photograph of Daniel she'd grabbed from her apartment. Their parents, Thomas and Linda Chen, both professors at UW, were driving down from Seattle, unable to get a flight until Wednesday. The family was converging on Arizona with a growing sense of dread that none of them wanted to voice. The Maricopa County Sheriff's Office officially opened a missing person case on Tuesday afternoon. When Maya filed a report in person, her eyes red from crying, her voice steady through sheer force of will. The deputy who took her statement was young, sympathetic, and clearly accustomed to tourists getting into trouble in the desert. "The superstitions can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing," Deputy Martinez explained, typing Maya's answers into an outdated computer system. "We get a couple missing hikers every year. Usually they wander off trail, get disoriented, run out of water. Sometimes we find them alive. Sometimes—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. "My brother is an experienced hiker," Maya said, her hands clenched in her lap. "He's climbed Mount Rainier. He's not stupid." "I'm sure he's not, ma'am, but the desert is different. Even experienced people make mistakes." The next morning, search teams located Daniel's rental SUV at a remote pullout along Peralta Road, about 7 miles from the nearest trailhead. The location was marked on no official maps, just a wide spot in a rutted dirt track where the earth had been packed down by occasional vehicles. Someone, another hiker, a ranger on patrol, had noticed the silver Pathfinder sitting alone under the merciless sun and called it in. Maya arrived with her parents just as the forensics team was processing the vehicle. She watched from behind yellow crime scene tape as gloved technicians photographed every inch of the SUV, their cameras clicking in the silence. The doors were locked. The windows were rolled up. Inside, Daniel's duffel bag sat in the passenger seat, partially unpacked. His wallet was in the center console. His phone charger was plugged into the dashboard outlet, the cable dangling uselessly. 3 bottles of water sat in the cup holders, still half full. "It's like he just stepped out for a minute," Linda whispered, her voice breaking. Thomas wrapped an arm around his wife's shoulders, his own face gray with fear. But it was the footprints that made Maya's blood run cold. A single set of tracks led away from the driver's side door, pressed into the sandy soil. They were clearly visible for maybe 20 feet, heading northwest toward a cluster of volcanic rock formations. And then, where the sand gave way to bare stone, they simply stopped. It was as if Daniel Chen had walked 20 feet into the desert and vanished into thin air. September 18th to 30, 2018. The search for Daniel Chen became one of the most extensive operations the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office had conducted in years. Dozens of volunteers joined professional search and rescue teams, combing through arroyos and scrambling over boulder fields in 100-degree heat. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging cameras flew grid patterns over the wilderness. Bloodhounds were brought in, though the scent trails went nowhere, confused by the wind and the unforgiving terrain. Maya stayed in Arizona, living out of a cheap motel in Apache Junction, the kind of place with flickering neon signs and a permanently broken ice machine. Every morning she joined the search teams, her face covered in dust, her hiking boots bloodying her heels. Every evening she returned to her room and updated the Find Daniel Chen Facebook page she'd created, posting photographs and pleading for information. The page grew viral. Within a week, it had 50,000 followers. True crime enthusiasts, amateur detectives, and psychics, always the psychics, flooded the comments with theories. Daniel had been abducted by drug smugglers. He'd fallen into a hidden mine shaft. He'd staged his own disappearance. He'd been taken by a serial killer. He'd encountered something the government didn't want people to know about. Please just focus on factual information, Maya posted repeatedly, her frustration mounting. My brother is a real person, not a mystery to solve for entertainment. But the theories kept coming, each more outlandish than the last. Thomas and Linda rented a small house in Tempe, unable to return to Seattle while their son was missing. Thomas took a leave of absence from his position in the physics department. Linda stopped sleeping, spending her nights researching desert survival and studying topographic maps until her eyes burned. He's smart, she kept saying, like a mantra. He's resourceful. He packed water. He knows we're looking for him. The official search was scaled back after 2 weeks. The volunteers gradually disappeared, returning to their jobs and families. The news crews packed up their equipment and moved on to fresher tragedies. The helicopters stopped flying their daily patterns. But the Chen family didn't stop. They couldn't. Maya hired a private investigator, a former Phoenix PD detective named Robert Garrison, who specialized in missing person cases. He was expensive, charging $200 an hour, but he was thorough. He re-interviewed everyone who'd had contact with Daniel, analyzed the cell phone records, and spent days hiking the area where the SUV had been found. The problem, Garrison explained during a meeting at their rented house, spreading maps across the dining table, is that we don't know which direction he went. That sunset photo he sent you could have been taken from any of a dozen locations within 5 miles of where we found the car. The terrain is brutal. Canyons, rock formations, caves. A person could be 10 feet off the trail and we'd never see them. So we just give up? Maya asked, her voice sharp with desperation. I didn't say that. I'm saying we need to be strategic. We need to think about why Daniel was there in the first place. They analyzed Daniel's Instagram account, looking for clues in his previous posts. He favored dramatic landscapes, golden hour lighting, unusual perspectives. He'd captioned one photo from a climbing trip with, "Sometimes the best shots require getting a little lost." He was chasing a photograph, Maya realized, staring at her brother's feed. He saw something he wanted to capture and went off trail to get the angle. It was a lead, but it led nowhere. The desert held its secrets. October 2018, September 2023. 5 years is a long time to live in limbo. The Chen family returned to Seattle, but their lives never recovered their former shape. Thomas retired early, unable to focus on his research. Linda started a foundation in Daniel's name, raising money for wilderness safety education and supporting other families of missing persons. Maya went through the motions of her career, but her heart wasn't in it. She went on dates that went nowhere, made friends she kept at arm's length, and spent every September taking personal time to return to Arizona. Daniel's apartment remained untouched for 3 years. The rent paid from his savings account, until the landlord finally insisted it had to be cleared out. Maya packed up her brother's belongings alone, crying over concert ticket stubs and sketchbooks filled with half-finished designs. The Find Daniel Chen Facebook page accumulated 200,000 followers. Internet sleuths continued to debate theories. Every few months, someone would claim to have seen Daniel, in California, in Mexico, in Colorado. None of the sightings panned out. The superstition wilderness attracted hikers year-round, people drawn by the legend of the Lost Dutchman's gold mine and the area's stark beauty. And sometimes those hikers stumbled across things they weren't looking for. A torn piece of fabric, a rusty camping stove, once a complete human skeleton that turned out to be a prospector from the 1940s. But nothing of Daniel's was ever found, until the summer of 2023, when Arizona experienced a record-breaking heat wave that pushed temperatures past 120 degrees. The desert became a furnace. Trails were closed. Even experienced rangers avoided unnecessary outdoor work. On August 23rd, two park rangers, Jennifer Kowalski and Marcus Webb, were driving a service road near Peralta Trail when they spotted a dry wash they'd never explored. It was the kind of place that only revealed itself after years of flash floods had carved new channels through the rock. "Let's check it out," Jennifer said, more from boredom than duty. They were supposed to be inspecting trail markers, but the heat had them looking for any excuse to delay the work. They parked their truck and followed the wash, their boots crunching on sun-bleached stones. The air shimmered with heat. Nothing moved except the occasional lizard. Marcus saw it first, a scrap of faded blue fabric snagged on a creosote bush, fluttering weakly in the hot breeze. "Jenny," he called, his voice tight. "Look at this." They approached carefully, and that's when they saw the opening between two massive boulders, a space barely visible unless you knew exactly where to look. Inside, partially buried by years of wind-blown sand and debris, was a backpack. And beside it, the unmistakable shape of human remains. Jennifer's radio crackled as she called it in, her hands shaking. "We've got a body. Peralta area, about 4.7 miles from the main trailhead, requesting immediate assistance." The coordinates she radioed were less than 5 miles from where Daniel Chen's rental SUV had been found 5 years, 11 months, and 9 days earlier. August 23rd and 24, 2023. Superstition Wilderness, Arizona. The Maricopa County Medical Examiner's Office had seen its share of desert recoveries, but there was something particularly haunting about remains that had waited years to be found. Dr. Sarah Kemp, the forensic pathologist assigned to the case, had worked in Arizona for 15 years and understood the desert's brutal efficiency at erasing human presence. Heat, wind, animals, and time conspired to reduce a person to scattered bones and faded fabric. But this recovery was different. The positioning of the remains suggested something that made her stomach tighten with professional sadness. "He was trapped," she told Detective Ray Morrison as they stood in the air-conditioned examination room the following morning. The remains had been transported overnight along with everything found at the scene. The way the skeletal structure is positioned between those boulders, he couldn't get out. He was wedged in there, and based on the fracture patterns in the right tibia and fibula, he was already injured when he ended up in that space. Morrison, a 20-year veteran of the MCSO, had pulled the Daniel Chen file the moment the recovery location was reported. The coordinates were too close to the original search area to be coincidence. He'd spent the previous evening reviewing the case notes, looking at photographs of a young man with an easy smile and his whole life ahead of him, and dreading the phone call he might have to make. "How long?" Morrison asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Years. The level of decomposition, the weathering of the fabric, the way the remains have been scattered by small scavengers. We're looking at a minimum of 4 to 5 years. I'll have a more precise estimate after the full analysis, but I'd be comfortable saying this person died sometime in 2018 or 2019. The backpack had been a North Face model, once black but faded to gray by the sun. Inside, investigators found items that painted a picture of someone's final hours. A first aid kit with an opened roll of medical tape, an empty Camelback water reservoir, a multi-tool, energy bar wrappers, and, incredibly, electronics that had somehow survived half a decade in the desert. A Canon EOS 5D Mark IV camera, its body scratched and sandblasted but structurally intact. An iPhone 8 in a heavy-duty protective case. Both devices had been tucked into an interior pocket of the backpack, which had partially shielded them from the worst of the elements. "I need these sent to the digital forensics lab immediately," Morrison instructed the evidence technician. "Priority rush. If there's any data recoverable from these devices, I need it yesterday." The technician, a young woman named Amanda Cho who'd seen countless phones pulled from crime scenes, looked skeptical. "Detective, these have been exposed to extreme temperatures for years. The chances of recovering anything—" "I don't care about chances. I care about answers. Make it happen." August 24th, 2023, Seattle, Washington. Maya Chen was in a client meeting when her phone buzzed with a call from an Arizona area code. She almost ignored it. Probably another journalist wanting to do an anniversary story about Daniel's disappearance. Or worse, another psychic claiming to have visions. But something made her glance at the screen, and she saw the caller ID, Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Her heart stopped. "I need to take this," she said abruptly, standing up from the conference table. Her colleagues exchanged glances as she walked out, pressing the phone to her ear with a shaking hand. "Hello? Ms. Chen, this is Detective Ray Morrison with the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office. Is this a good time to talk?" Maya's legs felt weak. She leaned against the hallway wall, closing her eyes. "Did you find him?" There was a pause, heavy with meaning. "Ms. Chen, I need you to understand that we haven't made a positive identification yet, but we've recovered human remains in the Superstition Wilderness, and based on the location and certain items found at the scene, we believe it may be your brother." "I'm very sorry." The words hit her like a physical blow. After 5 years of hoping, of not knowing, of existing in a horrible limbo between grief and optimism, she finally had an answer. And it was the answer she'd been dreading. "Where?" she managed to ask, her voice barely a whisper. "About 5 miles from where we found his vehicle. The remains were wedged between rock formations in an area that wasn't thoroughly searched during the original investigation. It's very remote, very difficult terrain." Maya slid down the wall until she was sitting on the floor of the office hallway, tears streaming down her face. Around her, colleagues pretended not to notice, hurrying past with their eyes averted. How did he die? "We don't have all the answers yet, but, Ms. Chen, we found electronic devices at the scene, a camera and a phone. Our forensics team is working on them now. If there's any data we can recover, it might tell us what happened to your brother. He recorded something? We don't know yet, but I promise you, we're going to find out everything we can. I'll need you to contact me about DNA comparison for positive identification. Do you have a moment to discuss that?" Maya couldn't respond. She was crying too hard. 5 years of tension and fear and desperate hope finally breaking through the dam she'd built around her emotions. A co-worker, Jessica from accounting, knelt beside her, placing a gentle hand on her shoulder. "I'll call you back," Maya finally said. "I need to tell my parents. I need to." "Take your time, Ms. Chen. I'm here whenever you're ready. And again, I'm truly sorry." August 25-28, 2023, Phoenix, Arizona. The Chen family arrived in Phoenix like ghosts returning to a haunted house. Thomas had aged visibly in 5 years, his hair completely white now, his shoulders permanently hunched as if bearing an invisible weight. Linda's face had acquired deep lines that no amount of sleep could erase. Maya looked hollowed out, her eyes distant. They met with Detective Morrison at the MCSO headquarters, a sprawling complex in downtown Phoenix that smelled of burned coffee and industrial cleaning products. Morrison was a broad-shouldered man in his 50s with kind eyes and the careful manner of someone accustomed to delivering terrible news. "First, I want to say how sorry I am that we're meeting under these circumstances," he began, gesturing for them to sit in a small conference room. "I've reviewed your son's case extensively, and I know how hard you fought to find answers." "Is it Daniel?" Linda asked, her voice steady despite the tears on her cheeks. "Have you confirmed it?" "The dental records are a match. I received confirmation this morning. The remains we recovered are definitively your son. I'm very sorry for your loss." Thomas made a sound somewhere between a sob and a gasp. Maya reached for her father's hand, squeezing it tightly. They'd known, of course. They'd known since the phone call. But hearing it confirmed was different. Final. Real. "How did he die?" Thomas asked. "Was it exposure? Dehydration?" Morrison opened a folder, pulling out several photographs that he turned to face them. The images showed the recovery site, 2 massive boulders creating a V-shaped gap, barely wide enough for a person to fit through. "We believe Daniel fell into this space and couldn't get back out. The medical examiner found fractures consistent with a significant fall. His right ankle was shattered. He would have been in tremendous pain and unable to walk. But the water," Maya said, her mind racing back to the SUV, the half-full bottles. He had water. We found water in his car. He did. But the reservoir in his backpack was empty. Our working theory is that he left his vehicle to take photographs, probably climbed up to get a better vantage point, and fell. The injury immobilized him, and he couldn't make it back to the vehicle. He would have run out of water within a day or two in those temperatures. Linda covered her mouth with her hand. He died alone, in pain, calling for help that never came. Mrs. Chen, I know this is incredibly difficult, but there's something else I need to tell you. Morrison pulled out another photograph, this one showing the camera and phone in evidence bags. We found these with your son. Our digital forensics team has been working around the clock, and they've managed to recover data from both devices. Maya's head snapped up. What kind of data? Photographs from the camera and video files from the phone. Ms. Chen, your brother documented what happened to him. He recorded messages. The room fell silent except for the hum of the air conditioning. Outside the conference room, phones rang and people typed, and the machinery of law enforcement ground forward. But in that small space, time seemed to stop. He left messages, Thomas whispered. For us? We're still processing everything, and I need to warn you, some of the content is very difficult to watch. Your son was injured, scared, and knew he was in serious danger. But yes, he recorded multiple videos over what appears to be a 3-day period. He tried to explain what happened, and he left messages for his family. Maya felt her chest tighten. I want to see them. I need to see what he said. I understand, and you will, but let me prepare you first. Morrison pulled out a tablet, opening a file. The forensics team has put together a timeline based on the metadata from the photos and videos. It tells us exactly what happened to Daniel from the moment he left his vehicle until... He paused. Until the end. He turned the tablet to face them, showing a document with timestamps and brief descriptions. Maya leaned forward, reading through tears. September 14th, 2018. Timeline of events 5:47 p.m. Last photo taken from inside vehicle. Shows view through windshield of mountain range. 6:12 p.m. Series of photos showing Daniel hiking away from vehicle, following game trail toward rock formations. 6:28 p.m. Multiple photos of sunset from elevated position. Location approximately 3 miles from vehicle. 6:43 p.m. Final sunset photo sent via text message to sister. This was the last successful data transmission from the phone. 6:51 p.m. Video file, 2 minutes, 17 seconds. Daniel filming himself, explaining he's climbing up to get one more angle before heading back. He's excited talking about the light. No signs of distress. 7:04 p.m. Video file, 43 seconds. Shaky cam footage showing Daniel falling, audio of impact screaming. Video ends abruptly. 7:18 p.m. Video file, 4 minutes, 8 seconds. Daniel propped against rocks, clearly in pain. He's explaining he fell approximately 15 to 20 feet. His ankle is definitely broken, but he's going to try to climb out. He's still optimistic. 8:32 p.m. Video file, 6 minutes, 2 seconds. Daniel has attempted to climb out but fallen back down. He's now wedged between boulders. Very distressed. Trying to call 911, no signal. Trying to text, messages failing to send. 9:47 p.m. Video file, 8 minutes, 31 seconds. Daniel has accepted he's stuck until morning. He's trying to remain calm, talking about what he'll do when he gets out. Drinking water sparingly, making jokes to keep his spirits up. September 15th, 2018, 6:23 a.m. Video file, 3 minutes, 12 seconds. Daniel has survived the night, in significant pain. Explaining his situation more clearly, seems to be recording for posterity in case he's not found. 11:18 a.m. Video file, 11 minutes, 44 seconds. Daniel attempting to signal for help with camera flash. Growing more desperate. Discussing water conservation. Still believes he'll be rescued. 4:37 p.m. Video file, 7 minutes 3 seconds. Daniel's condition deteriorating. Dehydration evident in speech patterns. Beginning to leave messages for family members. 8:52 p.m. Video file, 15 minutes 9 seconds. Daniel's last extended video. Severe dehydration. Difficulty speaking. Final messages for family. Camera battery dying. September 16, 2018, 7:14 a.m. Photo accidental. Appears to be unintentional trigger of camera shutter. Shows portion of sky. No further data recorded. Maya stared at the timeline, her mind struggling to process what she was reading. While she'd been at work, annoyed about a client presentation, her brother had been trapped in the desert, slowly dying. While she'd texted him, "Gorgeous, be safe." He'd already been injured, already stuck. "How long did he survive?" she asked, her voice hollow. "Based on the video evidence and the medical examiner's analysis, we believe Daniel lived for approximately 2 to 3 days after the fall. The cause of death was likely a combination of dehydration, exposure, and complications from his injuries." Linda was crying silently, tears streaming down her face. Thomas sat rigid, staring at nothing, his jaw clenched so tight Maya could see the muscles jumping. "The videos," Thomas said. "Can we see them?" Morrison hesitated. "Mr. Chen, I need to be very clear about this. These videos are extremely distressing. Your son was in tremendous pain and fear. Watching them will be one of the hardest things you ever do. I'd recommend waiting, perhaps having a therapist present." "No." Thomas's voice was firm. "He recorded those messages for us. He wanted us to hear what he had to say. I won't make him wait any longer." Morrison nodded slowly. "All right, but we're going to take this slowly. I'll show you the first video, and then we'll take a break. This isn't something you should watch all at once." He set up the tablet on the conference table, angling it so all 3 family members could see the screen. The image was black, the play button visible in the center. "This is the video Daniel recorded at 7:18 p.m., about 15 minutes after his fall," Morrison explained. "It's 4 minutes and 8 seconds long. Are you ready?" No one answered, but Maya reached out and pressed play. The screen came to life, and suddenly Daniel was there, alive and moving and speaking. His face filled the frame, dirt smudged and scraped on one cheek, his University of Washington hoodie torn at the shoulder. Behind him, the sky was darkening to deep purple, and the camera picked up the sound of his labored breathing. Okay, Daniel was saying, his voice tight with pain but still recognizably his. "So this is really stupid, but I need to document this in case it takes a while for someone to find me. I'm recording this on my phone because my camera battery is lower and I might need that for signaling." He adjusted the phone, propping it against something, and shifted position with a sharp hiss of pain. The camera angle widened, showing more of his surroundings, the narrow gap between boulders, the darkening sky above. "I fell. I'm such an idiot. I was trying to get a shot of the sunset from up on those rocks, and I thought I saw a better angle, and the rock was loose and I just..." He made a falling gesture with his hand. "Probably fell about 15-20 feet. I landed in this gap between boulders and I can't get out. I've tried twice and I keep sliding back down." He lifted his right leg slightly, wincing. "My ankle is definitely broken, like completely broken. I can see bone. It's bad. But I'm okay. I'm okay. I have water. I have some food. And when it gets light tomorrow, I'll figure out how to climb out. Or someone will find my car and come looking. It's fine. It's going to be fine." But his voice cracked on the last word, betraying his fear. Maya made a soft sound of anguish and Thomas grabbed her hand. On screen, Daniel was trying to smile. "Maya, if you're watching this, which hopefully you won't because I'll be back in Seattle telling you this story in person, I need you to know that pineapple definitely belongs on pizza. I'm right about this. I'm willing to die on this hill. Well, not literally die. Poor choice of words." He laughed, but it sounded forced. "Mom, Dad, I'm sorry if I worried you. I know you said to be careful and I promised I would be. I'm sorry, but I'm going to be fine. I just need to wait until morning. The video showed him attempting to shift position again, crying out in pain. He sat still for a moment, breathing hard, then looked back at the camera. Signal's completely dead here. I've tried calling 911 about 20 times. I've tried texting. Nothing's going through. But that's okay. People know where I am. Maya knows I'm in Arizona. The rental car company has my itinerary. Someone will realize I'm missing and they'll find the car and they'll search the area and they'll find me. That's how this works. He was talking faster now, trying to convince himself. I'm going to conserve my phone battery and my water. I have maybe, I don't know, 2 liters? That should last me until tomorrow morning easily. The first aid kit has some bandages, but nothing strong enough for this. He gestured at his ankle. But pain is just information, right? Just signals from my nervous system. I can handle it. The video ran for another minute, Daniel going through his supplies methodically, taking inventory, energy bars, multi-tool, sunscreen. His voice was steady, professional, like he was narrating a nature documentary instead of recording what might be his last hours. Then, near the end, his composure cracked. I don't want to die here, he whispered, looking directly into the camera. I'm 27 years old. I'm not ready. I have things I want to do, people I want to see. I need you guys to know that I love you and I'm sorry and I'm going to try so hard to make it out of this because The video ended. The conference room was silent except for the sound of Linda's quiet crying. There are 18 more videos, Morrison said gently. We don't have to watch them all today. But Maya was already reaching for the tablet. Show me the next one. August 28th, 2023. Maricopa County Sheriff's Office, Phoenix. The conference room had become a shrine to Daniel Chen's final hours. The table was covered with printed screenshots from his videos, maps of the recovery area, and forensic reports. Empty coffee cups lined the windowsill. Maya had barely slept in 3 days, sustained by rage and grief and the desperate need to understand every moment of her brother's death. Detective Morrison had tried to pace the video review sessions, insisting on breaks, ordering food no one ate, suggesting they continue tomorrow. But the Chen family was relentless. They needed to see it all. Every second Daniel had recorded was a piece of him they'd thought was lost forever. And they consumed the footage with the desperate hunger of people who'd been starving for 5 years. The videos painted a picture that was simultaneously heartbreaking and infuriating. Daniel had done everything right, rationed his water, tried to signal for help, attempted repeatedly to climb out of the gap between the boulders. His problem wasn't lack of knowledge or poor judgment. His problem was simple, terrible, bad luck. The video recorded at 8:32 p.m. on the first night showed Daniel's growing realization that rescue might not come quickly. He'd wedged himself into a partially upright position, his broken ankle elevated as much as possible, and was speaking directly to the camera with the focused intensity of someone who knew they were running out of time. I've been thinking about the search pattern they'll use when they realize I'm missing, he explained, his face illuminated by the phone's screen in the gathering darkness. They'll start at the last known location, which would be the car. The problem is, I don't think I'm visible from any normal search route. I'm down in this gap between rocks, and unless someone is standing right at the edge looking down, they won't see me. He paused, wincing as he adjusted his position. The sunset photo I sent Maya, that's going to be important. They can analyze the angle of the light, the mountain range in the background, and triangulate approximately where I was standing when I took it. But that still leaves a pretty big search area. And I didn't take that photo from here. I took it from up there. He gestured upward, though the camera couldn't capture what he was pointing at. And then I tried to climb higher to get an even better angle, and that's when I fell. Thomas leaned forward, studying the video intently. He's analyzing his own rescue operation. Even injured and trapped, he's thinking strategically. Your son was very intelligent, Morrison said quietly. Every video shows him trying to problem solve, trying to increase his chances of being found. The video continued. Daniel had turned the camera to show his surroundings more clearly, narrating like a tour guide in hell. The gap I'm in is maybe 3 feet wide at the bottom, widening to about 5 feet at the top, which is approximately 12 feet above me. The walls are smooth volcanic rock with very few handholds. I tried climbing out twice and fell both times. The second time I landed on my broken ankle and I think I may have passed out from the pain for a few minutes. He turned the camera back to his face. I'm trying to stay positive here, but I need to be realistic. If someone doesn't find me within the next day or two, this could get very bad very quickly. The temperature today was probably over 100 degrees. Tonight will drop maybe to the 70s, but tomorrow will be just as hot. I have water for maybe another 24 hours if I'm careful. After that, he didn't finish the sentence. Maya pressed pause, her hand shaking. He knew, from the very first night, he knew he might not make it. He was facing reality, Morrison said, but he never gave up hope. Watch the next one. The video from 6:23 a.m. on September 15th showed a different Daniel. He'd survived the night, but the ordeal was taking its toll. His face was sunburned, his lips were cracked, and his eyes had dark circles under them. But he was still fighting. "Good morning," he said to the camera, his voice hoarse. "I made it through the night, which is good. Bad news is my ankle is worse. It's really swollen and the color is concerning. I think there might be an infection starting. Good news is I heard a helicopter around 4 a.m. It wasn't close enough to see me, but it means they're looking. Someone realized I'm missing and they're searching." He took a small sip of water from a bottle, then carefully screwed the cap back on. "I have maybe half a liter left. I need to make it last. The sun's coming up now and it's going to be brutal today. I'm going to try to create some shade using my hoodie." He demonstrated, wedging the fabric between rocks to create a small awning. This should help a little bit. The next few videos showed Daniel's physical deterioration in painful detail. By midday on the 15th, he was clearly suffering from severe dehydration. His speech was slurred, his movements sluggish. He'd stopped trying to climb out, conserving his energy instead. But he kept recording. "I want to explain what happened," he said in the 11:18 a.m. video, speaking slowly and deliberately. "I want you to understand this wasn't anyone's fault. I made a choice to go off the marked trail. I made a choice to climb those rocks. I thought I was being careful, but I wasn't careful enough. This is on me." He shifted, grimacing. "But I also want you to know that I don't regret coming here. Arizona is beautiful. The desert is incredible. I got to see things that took my breath away. That sunset, the one I sent to Maya, that was one of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. I'm glad I saw it." Linda made a choked sound. "He's dying and he's grateful for the sunset." "He was trying to give you peace," Morrison said gently. "He didn't want you to blame yourselves." The afternoon video from September 15th was when Daniel began leaving specific messages for individual family members. His voice was weak, his words carefully chosen. "Maya," he said, looking directly into the camera, "you're the best sister anyone could ask for. I know I never said that enough. I know I was annoying and I stole your clothes in high school and I ate your leftover Chinese food that one time even though you'd written your name on it. But you've always been there for me, always, and I need you to promise me something." He paused, gathering strength. "Don't let this destroy you. Don't let my stupid mistake ruin your life. You're going to want to blame yourself, to think you should have done something different, but there was nothing you could have done. I made choices. This is not your fault. Live your life, Maya. Fall in love. Eat pineapple pizza. Be happy. That's what I want for you." Maya was crying openly now, her whole body shaking. Thomas wrapped his arms around her, tears streaming down his own face. On screen, Daniel continued, "Mom, Dad, I'm so sorry. I know this is going to hurt you more than anything, and I hate that. You gave me everything. You taught me to be curious about the world, to take chances, to live fully. This wasn't how it was supposed to end, but I want you to know that I had a good life. I was happy. I was loved. That's more than a lot of people get." He took another tiny sip of water. "I'm leaving all my passwords and a note at my apartment. My laptop password is Mom's birthday, 1991, with no capitals. My Instagram account should be memorialized. Maya knows how to do that. My savings account has about $12,000 in it. Use it for something good. Maybe a scholarship for art students or something. He was quiet for a moment, then added, "And please don't be mad at Emily. The breakup wasn't her fault. She deserved better than someone who was constantly distracted by work. I hope she's happy." The video went on for several more minutes, Daniel going through practical matters with the calm focus of someone writing a will, bank accounts, insurance policies, friends who should be contacted. It was surreal, watching him plan his own funeral from a gap between boulders in the Arizona desert. "There's more," Morrison said as the video ended. "The last long video is 15 minutes. It was recorded on the second night, September 15th at 8:52 p.m. This is the hardest one to watch. Are you sure you want to continue?" "Yes," all three family members said in unison. Morrison pressed play. The video quality was noticeably degraded. The phone's battery was dying, and the low light conditions made the image grainy. But Daniel's face was visible in the dim glow of the screen, and he looked like a ghost of himself. His lips were cracked and bleeding. His eyes were sunken. His voice was barely a whisper. "This is probably my last video," he began. "Phone battery is at 3%. I have maybe one more sip of water left. I can't feel my ankle anymore, which is either very good or very bad. The helicopter came back today, but it was too far east. They're searching the wrong area." He coughed, a dry, rasping sound. "I've been thinking a lot about life today, about all the things I did and all the things I wanted to do. I had a list on my laptop, 30 before 30. Stupid stuff like learn to surf and visit Japan and finish that graphic novel I've been sketching for 3 years. I'm not going to finish that list now." His voice cracked. "I'm 27 years old, and I'm going to die in a hole in the desert, and it's so fucking unfair. I'm angry. I'm so angry. I want to live. I want to go home. I want to see you guys again. I want another chance." He was crying now, tears cutting tracks through the dirt on his face. "But I also need you to know that I'm not alone. I know that sounds crazy, but I've been thinking about all of you constantly. Every memory I have is playing through my mind like a movie. Maya, I remember when you taught me to ride a bike and I crashed into Mrs. Henderson's fence and you didn't tell Mom. I remember Dad taking me to see the Mariners and buying me a hot dog even though I'd already eaten 3. I remember Mom staying up all night with me when I had the flu in 8th grade. He smiled through his tears. I'm surrounded by love. Even here, even now, I'm not alone. You're all here with me." The video showed him shifting position with tremendous effort, leaning back against the rock wall. "I'm getting tired. Really tired. I know that's not a good sign. Dehydration does things to your body. I remember reading about it once. Your blood thickens, your organs start to fail, your brain doesn't work right. I can feel it happening. My thoughts are getting fuzzy." He looked directly into the camera one last time. "I love you, all of you. I'm sorry I couldn't be more careful. I'm sorry I'm leaving you like this. But please don't remember me like this, scared and hurt and dying. Remember me laughing. Remember me at Thanksgiving arguing about football. Remember me being annoying at your birthday parties, Maya. Remember me being alive." His eyes were closing. "I think I'm going to sleep now. It's cold tonight, colder than last night. That's probably the dehydration too. But I'm tired and sleep sounds really good. So I'm going to close my eyes and I'm going to think about home and I'm going to..." His voice trailed off. The camera kept recording for another 3 minutes, showing Daniel's chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. Then the screen went black as the phone battery finally died. The conference room was silent. "That wasn't the last video," Morrison said quietly. "There's one more. Recorded the next morning, September 16th at 7:14 a.m. But it's not really a video, it's a single accidental photo. We think Daniel's hand hit the camera shutter button. The image shows a portion of the sky, nothing else. Based on the medical examiner's analysis and the evidence at the scene, We believe Daniel died sometime on September 16th, approximately 48 to 72 hours after his fall. Thomas spoke, his voice steady despite his tears. He didn't suffer for weeks. That's something. He was incredibly brave, Morrison said. The way he handled this situation, staying calm, thinking rationally, trying to signal for help right up until the end. A lot of people would have panicked. Maya stared at the blank screen of the tablet. Why didn't we find him? We searched for weeks. We had helicopters and dogs and volunteers. How did we miss him? Morrison pulled up a topographic map on his laptop, rotating it to face the family. This is the area where we found Daniel's remains. He pointed to a spot marked with a red pin, and this is where we found his vehicle. A blue pin, roughly 5 miles away. The search pattern we used in 2018 was based on typical hiker behavior. People tend to follow established trails or visible landmarks. Daniel went off trail to chase a photograph which took him into terrain that wasn't part of the standard search grid. The gap where he fell was essentially invisible from above. The helicopter thermal imaging couldn't penetrate the rock, and ground searchers would have had to be standing at the exact edge of the gap to see him. He pulled up an aerial photo of the recovery site. The 2 boulders created a narrow V shape, like a slash in the earth. From above, it looked like nothing, just another shadow among thousands of shadows in the broken landscape. We failed him, Maya said flatly. He was right there and we didn't find him. Ms. Chen, your family did everything possible. You hired private investigators, you funded additional search efforts, you kept his case in the public eye. But the desert is vast and unforgiving. Even the most extensive search can miss someone who's in the wrong place. Or the right place, Thomas said bitterly. That's the horrible irony, isn't it? Daniel climbed up there because it was beautiful, because he wanted to capture something special, and it killed him. Morrison closed his laptop. There's one more thing I need to show you. The photographs Daniel took before he fell, the ones that were on his camera. Would you like to see them? The camera had been more resilient than the phone, its rugged construction and the protection of the backpack allowing the memory card to survive intact. The forensics team had extracted 247 images, documenting Daniel's final afternoon in chronological order. Morrison displayed them on the conference room's large monitor, a slideshow of the last hours of Daniel Chen's life. The early photos showed the drive from Phoenix, shots taken through the windshield of the Pathfinder, desert scenery rolling past, the mountains growing larger in the distance. Then the SUV parked at the pullout, Daniel's shadow stretching long across the sand in the late afternoon light. The hiking photos came next. Daniel had documented his route meticulously, photographing landmarks that could help him find his way back. A distinctive saguaro cactus, an outcropping of red rock shaped like a ship's prow, a dry stream bed cutting through the landscape. He was being careful, Maya observed. He was leaving a trail. He was, Morrison agreed. But the problem was, he kept going. He saw something interesting and followed it. Then something more interesting. He wandered farther from his vehicle than he probably intended. The photographs showed Daniel's progression toward the rock formations. Each image was composed with an artist's eye, the play of light and shadow, the texture of the stone, the vast emptiness of the desert stretching to the horizon. He'd been in his element, doing what he loved. Then came the Sunset series. 37 photos taken over the course of 20 minutes, documenting the sky's transformation from blue to gold to orange to purple. The mountains were silhouetted against the light, their peaks jagged and dramatic. One image, the one Daniel had sent to Maya, was particularly stunning. A perfect balance of composition and color that looked like something from a National Geographic magazine. That's what he died for, Linda whispered. That photograph. That's what he lived for, Thomas corrected gently. He lived for beauty, for capturing moments. That's who Daniel was. The final photos showed Daniel climbing higher, looking for better angles. The images became more precarious, shots taken from narrow ledges looking down at dizzying drops. Then a blurred sequence, the camera jerking, tumbling, capturing fragmented images of sky and rock and a falling figure. The last clear photograph showed nothing but darkening sky, taken at 7:04 p.m. on September 14, 2018, 12 minutes before Daniel recorded his first video from the gap between the boulders. "That's everything," Morrison said, turning off the monitor. "That's the complete record of what happened to your son." Maya stood up, walking to the window. Outside, Phoenix was going about its business, oblivious to the tragedy being discussed in this small room. Cars moved through traffic. People went to work. Life continued. "What happens now?" she asked, not turning around. "The medical examiner will release Daniel's remains to you for burial. The case will be officially closed as an accidental death, and you'll take him home." "After 5 years of searching, that's it? We just go home?" Morrison stood as well, walking to stand beside her. "Ms. Chen, I know this doesn't feel like closure, but you have answers now. You know what happened. You know your brother didn't suffer for months. You know he was thinking about you at the end. That's more than many families ever get." "It's not enough," Maya said, her voice breaking. "It'll never be enough." September 2023, Seattle, Washington. Daniel Chen came home in an urn. The memorial service was held at the University of Washington, in the same chapel where he'd attended concerts and poetry readings as a student. 300 people came: family, friends, co-workers, and strangers who'd followed his story online for 5 years. The Find Daniel Chen Facebook page had transformed overnight from a missing person case to a memorial, filled with condolences and shared memories from people who'd never met him, but felt connected to his story. Maya stood at the front of the chapel, looking out at the sea of faces, and tried to find words that would capture who her brother had been. Not the Daniel of the videos, scared and dying, but the real Daniel, the one who'd lived. "My brother was annoying," she began, and scattered laughter rippled through the room. "He ate my food, borrowed my clothes without asking, and could never be on time for anything. He was also the kindest, most creative, most fearlessly alive person I've ever known." She told stories. Daniel teaching neighborhood kids photography. Daniel staying up all night to help a coworker meet a deadline. Daniel rescuing a cat from a storm drain and then spending 2 weeks finding it a home because their apartment building didn't allow pets. Daniel didn't just exist in the world, Maya said. He participated in it. He looked for beauty everywhere, in sunsets and cityscapes, in people's faces, in ordinary moments that the rest of us overlooked. That's what he was doing when he died, looking for beauty. Thomas spoke next, his voice steady despite his grief. He talked about teaching Daniel to use his first camera at age 7, watching him fall in love with the way light could be captured and preserved. He saw the world differently than most people, Thomas said, and he wanted to share that vision with everyone. Every photograph he took was an invitation. Come see what I see. Come feel what I feel. Linda couldn't speak. She sat in the front row, clutching a framed photograph of Daniel from his college graduation, and let the tears flow silently. The service concluded with a slideshow of Daniel's photographs, set to music he'd loved. Images from his travels, mountains and oceans, cities and deserts, portraits of strangers who'd become friends. And finally, that last sunset, the one that had cost him everything. It was, everyone agreed, absolutely beautiful. October 2023. The Chen family established the Daniel Chen Wilderness Safety Foundation, using the money from his savings account as seed funding. The foundation provided GPS emergency beacons to hikers free of charge, taught wilderness safety classes, and advocated for better search and rescue resources in remote areas. If Daniel had carried a GPS beacon, he could have called for help, Maya explained to reporters at the foundation's launch. He would have been found within hours. We can't bring him back, but we can prevent this from happening to someone else's brother, someone else's son. The foundation distributed over 5,000 emergency beacons in its first year. 3 hikers used them to call for rescue, and all 3 survived situations that might otherwise have been fatal. Detective Morrison attended the foundation's opening ceremony. shaking hands with the Chen family and quietly admiring their ability to transform tragedy into something meaningful. "Your son would be proud," he told Thomas. "Our son should be here," Thomas replied. But he said it without bitterness, just a statement of fact. Daniel should be here, and he wasn't. And somehow, they had to learn to live with that. Maya returned to Arizona one last time in November, 5 months after Daniel's remains were found. She drove out to the recovery site alone, following the coordinates Morrison had given her. The rangers had marked the location with a small cairn, a stack of stones that visitors had slowly added to over the months. Each rock a tiny memorial. She climbed carefully to the edge of the gap where Daniel had fallen. Looking down, she could see why he'd been impossible to find. The space between the boulders was narrow, shadowed, utterly unremarkable from any distance. You'd have to know exactly where to look. "I'm sorry I didn't find you sooner," Maya said aloud, her voice carried away by the desert wind. "I tried so hard. We all did." She placed her own stone on the cairn, then pulled out her phone and opened the photo album she'd created of Daniel's final pictures. Scrolling through the images, she traced his path from the car to the rocks to the sunset to the fall. Each photograph was a choice he'd made, a moment he'd decided to preserve. The last sunset photo filled her screen, and Maya finally understood. Daniel hadn't died chasing something frivolous. He died doing what he loved in a place he found beautiful, trying to capture a moment of transcendent light. There were worse ways to spend your last hours. She stayed until the sun began to set, watching the desert transform exactly as it had 5 years ago. The light turned golden, then orange, then deep purple. The mountains became silhouettes. The temperature dropped. And somewhere in that vast landscape, Maya felt her brother's presence, not as a ghost, but as a memory woven into the fabric of this place. "Goodbye, Daniel," she whispered. "I love you." Then she climbed back down to her rental car and drove away, leaving the desert to keep its secrets. December 2023. The Chen family gathered for their first Thanksgiving without Daniel. It was strange and painful, the empty chair at the table a constant reminder of who was missing, but they told stories and laughed through tears and remembered him as he'd been, alive and annoying and wonderful. "Pineapple definitely belongs on pizza," Maya announced as she served dessert, and everyone smiled because they understood. That night, Maya uploaded Daniel's final photographs to his Instagram account, which she'd memorialized according to his wishes. She included the sunset photo and wrote a long caption explaining what had happened, how the images had been recovered, and what her brother's last days had been like. "Daniel died doing what he loved," she wrote. "He died looking for beauty in a beautiful place, and he found it. That last sunset, the one that cost him everything, was absolutely worth seeing. He told us that himself, in those final videos. He said he didn't regret it." She paused, her fingers hovering over the keyboard, then continued. "But I want everyone who reads this to understand something. Adventure is wonderful. Taking risks to capture beauty is part of being fully alive. But please, please be careful. Carry emergency beacons. Tell people where you're going. Don't chase that one perfect shot at the expense of safety. Daniel would want you to see the world and capture its beauty. He just wouldn't want you to die for it." The post went viral, shared hundreds of thousands of times. People commented with their own stories of close calls, of times they'd pushed too far and gotten lucky, of friends and family members who hadn't been as fortunate. Daniel's story became a cautionary tale, yes, but also something more. A reminder that every life is precious, every moment is borrowed, and the line between adventure and disaster is heartbreakingly thin. June 2024, Maya hiked Mount Rainier on what would have been Daniel's 30th birthday, carrying his ashes in a small container. At the summit, with her parents beside her, she scattered half of them to the wind, letting him return to the mountains he'd loved. The other half they kept, buried in the family plot in Seattle next to the grandparents Daniel had adored. His headstone was simple: Daniel Chen, 1991-2018, followed by a quote from one of his final videos. I'm surrounded by love. On the anniversary of his disappearance each year, Maya posted one of his photographs on Instagram with the hashtag #LiveLikeDaniel. It became a tradition among his followers, posting their own adventure photos, sharing stories of beauty they'd captured, reminding each other to be careful and grateful and fully present. The Daniel Chen Wilderness Safety Foundation grew, expanding beyond emergency beacons to fund search and rescue operations, support families of missing persons, and educate outdoor enthusiasts about risk management. By 2025, it had saved an estimated 43 lives. Detective Morrison retired in 2024, but he kept a copy of Daniel's last sunset photo on his office wall. When younger detectives asked about it, he told them the story, not to discourage them, but to remind them why their work mattered. Every missing person was someone's child, someone's sibling, someone's whole world. We found him eventually, Noel Morrison would say. 5 years too late, but we found him. That family got their answers. They got to bring him home. Never underestimate how much that matters. Present day. The superstition wilderness remains popular with hikers, its reputation for danger only adding to its allure. The cairn marking where Daniel fell has grown larger, supplemented now by a small brass plaque installed by the National Park Service. In memory of Daniel Chen, 1991-2018, adventurer, artist, beloved son, and brother. The desert is beautiful. It is also unforgiving. Please hike safely and always let someone know your plans. Maya visits Arizona once a year, always in September, always bringing a new stone for the cairn. She's met other families there, other people leaving memorials for loved ones who didn't come home from the desert. They share stories, offer comfort, and remind each other that grief is just love with nowhere to go. Thomas Chen published a book of Daniel's photographs in 2025, Profits Going to the Foundation. The final page shows that last sunset, with Daniel's own words beneath it. One of the most beautiful things I've ever seen. Linda Chen volunteers with search and rescue organizations, using her experience to help other families navigate the impossible limbo of having someone missing. She tells them honestly, sometimes the answers you get aren't the answers you wanted, but answers matter. Knowing matters. The videos Daniel recorded were never released to the public. The Chen family watched them once more together, and then asked that they be sealed. Those 15 minutes and 9 seconds of raw fear and love and goodbye belonged to them alone. The world didn't need to see their son dying, the world just needed to remember he lived. And in a small way, he still does. Every hiker who carries an emergency beacon because of Daniel's story. Every search and rescue operation funded by his foundation. Every person who sees a beautiful sunset and thinks to text their family, "I love you," before chasing the perfect angle. Daniel Chen wanted to capture beauty and share it with the world. In the end, that's exactly what he did, just not in the way anyone expected. 5 years after he disappeared into the Arizona desert, 2 rangers found a backpack and a camera and the truth. They found a young man who'd made one wrong choice on one beautiful evening. They found someone who died alone but surrounded by love. They found Daniel, and they brought him home.